Hello everyone, welcome you all. This is Vivek Kumar, Assistant Professor of Physics working in Dr. B.R.R. Government College, Cherla. So as you already know, we are dealing the chapter electrostatics, and even in today's video lesson, we will try to continue the topics of the chapter which is electrostatics. Okay, so fine. So in today's video lesson, we try to determine the electric field intensity due to a charged cylinder by using Gauss theorem. Okay, so by using Gauss theorem in today's video lesson, we will try to determine the electric field intensity due to a charged cylinder. So in our previous videos, we already determined the electric field intensity due to the charged cylindrical conductor, right? So if you are very much clear with that topic, this topic is going to be little easier to you. Okay, but anyway, this topic is one important question for your board examinations. Okay, so we just move on to the topic now. Okay, fine. So this is our today's topic, which is E due to a charged cylinder. So that means we will try to find the electric field intensity due to a charged cylinder. So first of all, we will try to understand what is a charged cylinder. So once you understand the system of the charge that is given to us, then the derivation part is going to be very easy to you. Okay, anyway, what is a charged cylinder? Okay, so you already know what is a charged cylindrical conductor, right? So what is a charged cylindrical conductor? So the charged cylindrical conductor is the conductor which is in the form of a cylinder on which the charge is distributed uniformly. Okay, so the charged cylindrical conductor is as shown in the figure. So this is the diagram or the figure which is on the slide. So this is the diagram or this image which is showing the charged cylindrical conductor. Okay, so but our aim is to find the electric field intensity due to charged cylinder, which we are going to do today. Okay, so anyway, this is the charged cylindrical conductor. How can you say that this is charged cylindrical conductor? Because whatever the charge that is given to this conductor is only distributed on its surface, curved surface. Is that clear? So by seeing the plus charge which is given to this cylinder on its curved surface, we can say that this image is nothing but the system of charged cylindrical conductor. Anyway, so now what is the difference between charged cylindrical conductor and charged cylinder? Okay, so the charged cylinder is the one again. So that means charged cylinder is the one which is in the form of a cylinder in which the charge is uniformly distributed throughout its volume. So remember, in case of charged cylindrical conductor, the charge is distributed only on its curved surface area. Okay, curved surface or curved surface area. So the charge will be distributed only on its curved surface. Okay, so that means whatever the charge that is given to a conductor, you know that it only resides on its surface, and hence there will not be any kind of charge that is present inside the conductor, which we already discussed. But whereas here this is not a conductor, this is cylinder, charged cylinder, that's it. That means whatever the charge that is given to it, that charge will be completely and uniformly distributed throughout its volume. So that means if you now you just have a look at how the charged cylinder looks like. So this is charged cylinder. So now you just have a look at this. So now can you see this one? So there is some plus charge here, and this is the charge that is present even inside the cylinder. So this is the image which is charged cylinder. I hope it is clear to you. So what is the difference between charged cylindrical conductor and charged cylinder? This one you have to understand. Then only you can do the derivations easily, because there are different kinds of charge distributions. Please remember: linear charge distribution, surface charge distribution, and volume charge distributions. Once you understand what kind of the charge distribution our system is coming under, then you can do the derivation parts in terms of lambda or sigma or rho respectively. So that means, first of all, you need to understand what kind of charge distribution our system is coming under. Okay, then only the derivation part will be easier. So anyway, as I just mentioned, so this is the charged cylinder. So the charge is whatever the charge that is given to it is uniformly distributed throughout its volume. So remember, throughout its volume, that means the charge will be present even inside the cylinder. So this we call it as charged cylinder. This is okay. Anyway, there is no need to write here. So this is the charged cylinder. So please check it. So what is charged cylindrical conductor? In case of charged cylindrical conductor, there will not be any kind of charge that is distributed inside inside the charged cylindrical conductor. Whatever the charge that is given, it will be only distributed on its surface. So please just remember this difference. Okay, fine. So since it is a charged cylinder, I hope it is clear to you the difference between charged cylinder and charged cylindrical conductor. So now, since this is charged cylinder, now I hope you understood it. So the electric lines of forces will be coming outwards, right? So since I have given a positive charge to this system, you know that the electric lines of forces will be directed outwards from positive charge. So since in this system of charge, the charge that I have taken here as plus, that means from this system all the electric lines of forces will be traveling outwards. So you know that, you know this property, right? So if I see this system from front or side, the diagram looks like this in terms of the charge and electric lines of forces. Okay, so this is how the charged cylinder looks like in terms of charge and also in terms of electric lines of forces when I see it from side or front. Okay, so that you try to get it. Anyway, I have taken the radius of this charged cylinder as capital R. So I hope you have to remember this, because in our derivation part we are going to get two R's. One is capital R, another one is small r. Okay, so anyway, capital R is the radius of the charged cylinder that I am considering. Okay, so now you know the directions of electric lines of forces. Okay, so that's it. And for example, if I take this point, so at this point the direction of electric field intensity will be directed outwards. You already know this one. And similarly, if I take this point, so the direction of electric field intensity will be directed outwards, like that. So that means the electric lines of forces gives us the direction of electric field intensity at a particular point that you are choosing. So, and hence, to know the direction of electric field intensity, you need to understand the direction of electric lines of forces that are given in our system. Okay, okay, that's it. So anyway, this is the charged cylinder, which looks like when we see it from side or front, whatever you say, and that's up to you. Anyway, so if I look the same system of charge, which is charged cylinder, from top, this entire diagram looks like this. It looks like a circle. So please check it out. If I see this entire system of charge that is given to us, which is charged cylinder, from top, it looks like a circle. So please check it out. Whatever the charge that is given to this system, it will not be only on its surface. It will be distributed even inside the circle. Circle in the sense here it is cylinder. Okay, so that means the charge will be present throughout its volume. So that you have to understand. So anyway, the direction of electric lines of forces looks like this now. So they are directed outwards. Okay, if I look the charged cylinder from front or side, the electric lines of forces will be only towards right and left. It looks like that, but actually the electric lines of forces will be directed in all the directions. Okay, so that you can understand with the help of this diagram. So if I see this charged cylinder from top, the electric lines of forces will be directed outwards in all the directions. So that you have to understand. So now I can choose any point here. If I choose this point, if I choose this point, if I choose this point or this point, so whatever the point that I choose around the cylinder, the direction of electric field intensity will be directed outwards. So please try to understand this one. Okay, anyway, now what that means, as I already mentioned, there are different types of charge distributions, right? One is linear charge distribution, another one is surface charge distribution, and third one is volume charge distribution. So under which distribution our system is coming under, that we try to understand. So this is charged cylinder, right? Okay, so let us assume that its length is infinite. Okay, here I am considering the length of the charged cylinder as infinity. Okay, infinite, right? So now that means whatever the charge that is given to this cylinder, it is uniformly distributed along its length, right? So this is length now. Since I am saying that its length is infinity, I am just saying that its length is infinity, and hence what does that mean? Whatever the charge that is given to it, it is distributed along its length also, and hence this charged cylinder is one best example, or it is coming under the linear charge distribution. So remember, so that means our charged cylinder is going to be the example for linear charge distribution, and hence in case of linear charge distribution, whatever the formulas or derivations, in this case the electric field intensity, we can study in terms of lambda, which is called as linear charge density. Is that clear? I hope you remember that. Okay, different kinds of distribution and the terms with which we can study those distributions. So since the charged cylinder is one example for linear charge distribution, we can derive or we can write the electric field intensity in terms of lambda, which we call it as linear charge density. And one more thing, it is also the example for volume charge distribution. This is also an example for volume charge distribution. Okay, so that means as I already mentioned, whatever the charge that is given to this cylinder, it is uniformly distributed throughout its volume. I already said that word, right? So that means even inside the cylinder, the charge is present here. So look at this, even inside the cylinder, the charge is present. That means whatever the charge that is given to it, it is uniformly distributed throughout its volume also, and hence this is also an example for volume charge distribution. So since it is also an example for volume charge distribution, we can derive or write the equations of electric field intensity in terms of volume charge density. So this is volume charge density, so which is denoted by rho. Okay, so remember, it is an example for linear charge distribution, and hence we can study or derive the equations in terms of lambda, which we call it as linear charge density, and it is also an example for volume charge distribution, and hence we can derive or write the equations of electric field intensity in terms of rho, which we call it as volume charge density. So anyway, what is this linear charge density and volume charge density? You already know these terms, these formulas we are going to get in our derivation part, so please try to understand them. So since I already mentioned that the length of this charged cylinder is infinite, so now to find lambda, which is linear charge density, we consider a small element of this charged cylinder. I am erasing everything now. Okay, so let us assume that the linear charge density of this cylinder is lambda. So to find this lambda, what we do is that we consider this small element, or small or big, whatever it is, as an element of this charged cylinder. For example, if I consider this element of the cylinder here. Okay, so now let us assume that the length of this cylinder that I am choosing here, the length of the cylindrical element that I am choosing here. If I take it as L, and if I assume that the total charge that is present within this element that I am choosing here is plus Q. Now lambda is defined, as you already know the definition, it is defined as the charge per unit length, right? And hence I can write lambda as Q by L, and hence from this equation I can write Q as lambda into L. Is that clear? So this is the relation between the charge that I am considering in the element that I am choosing within this charged cylinder in terms of lambda. Okay, so that means this is the equation which gives the relation between Q and lambda for the element that I am choosing inside this charged cylinder. Okay, so this is one formula that we are going to use in our derivation part, and another one is rho also. That means in terms of rho, what is the relation between Q and rho, that also we try to find. Okay, so to understand that, let us take the same element. Let us take the same element here itself. So this is the element that I am choosing, whose length is L, and let us assume that the charge that is present within this length element is plus Q. Okay, so now, as you already know, the radius of this cylinder is capital R, right? So remember, whatever the charge that is given to this cylinder, it is only distributed in the cylinder, right? So that means you know the definition of rho, which is charge per unit volume. Is that clear? Charge per unit volume. That means we have to divide the total charge that is present within this element with the volume of this element, so that you try to understand, with the volume of this element. So anyway, so this is a cylinder, remember, it's a cylinder, it's a cylinder now, okay, of height L and of radius capital R. So this is a cylinder that I am choosing within this element. Okay, so now the total charge that is present within this cylinder, I have taken it as Q, and the volume of this cylinder becomes pi capital R square, and its height, which is taken as L. So that means the volume of this cylinder is going to be pi capital R square L. Okay, so that you have to understand. In some books, the length of the element is taken by H instead of L. You can take it in any way. Okay, anyway, since I am taking here by L, the volume of this element, cylindrical element that I have chosen here is going to be pi R square L. So that you try to get it. So this is the volume of this cylinder. Okay, remember, we are getting capital R here. Is that clear? We are getting capital R in case of volume here. So please try to understand this one. Okay, so anyway, to find rho, what you have to do, you have to divide Q with this volume. Okay, so if you do so, you get rho by Q by pi R square L, and by cross multiplication I can write Q as rho times pi capital R square L. So this is the formula which relates or which gives the relation between the charge and the volume charge density that I am considering for this cylinder. Okay, charged cylinder. So anyway, so these are few formulas that we are you have to understand so that our derivation becomes easier. Okay, so anyway, I am just moving on. So that means the explanation of our system of charge is completely done within this slide, right? So what is charged cylinder, that you have to understand, first one, and the next one under what kind of charge distribution our system is coming. It is coming under linear charge distribution and also volume charge distribution, that you have to understand. And the third one is that since it is coming under linear charge distribution, we can derive the equation of electric field intensity in terms of lambda, and also since it is coming under volume charge distribution, we can derive the electric field intensity in terms of rho. And what is the relation between Q and lambda and Q and rho, so that all those things we discussed in this slide. So now let us move to the derivation part of the electric field intensity due to a charged cylinder. Okay, fine. So now This is our charged cylinder of radius capital R and of length infinite. Okay, so now I have to find the electric field intensity due to this charged cylinder by using Gauss law. And what is Gauss law? And while using Gauss law, we need to follow certain steps, and how to follow those steps and why to follow those steps, you know everything, right? Anyway, I hope you remember those steps. So what you have to do, whatever the system of charge that is given to us, to find the electric field intensity, first of all you have to choose the point P where you want to find the electric field intensity. So that point is the first step that is going to come here. So first choose that point P. Okay, anyway, this one. So choose the point P where you want to find the electric field intensity. Okay, and I have chosen a point P now. So this is the point P where I want to find the electric field intensity. So now let us assume that the distance of this P from the cylinder is smaller. And you know how we measure the distances, right? So we measure the distances from centers. So that means here small r is the distance between the axis of the cylinder and the point P. Okay, so now we have chosen the point P where I want to find the electric field intensity. Okay, our next step is that you have to draw a symmetrical closed surface, which we call it as Gaussian surface, in such a way that it has to pass through point P. Is that clear? So now I have chosen point P, that's over. Next step is that I have to draw a Gaussian surface which is symmetrical, which is closed. Is that clear? And it has to pass through point P also. Anyway, in this case the symmetrical Gaussian surface is going to be a cylinder again. You know that because we already have done that in our last video, which is in case of charged cylindrical conductor. Okay, so since we need a symmetrical Gaussian surface, and since our system is a cylinder, the symmetrical Gaussian surface will be again one more cylinder of radius smaller. So please remember, here we are going to get 2 R's now. So this is the Gaussian cylinder that I am constructing. Okay, so this is the real cylinder actually. So this is the real cylinder that we get. So this is the real cylinder, but this is Gaussian cylinder, which is an imaginary. Actually this cylinder will not be there, but we are constructing it. This is an imaginary surface. We are constructing it only to apply Gauss law, because to apply Gauss law you need to have a closed surface. So that you try to understand. So it is closed now. So this is curved surface area. You have one more surface here, upper surface, which looks like a circle now. This is also a circle, right? And its radius is smaller now. So please check it out. The radius of Gaussian cylinder is smaller. This is smaller. Okay, is that clear? So now I have drawn the symmetrical Gaussian surface, which is a cylinder in this case, which passes through point P. And next point is what? To find the electric field intensity by using Gauss law. At point P, you have to construct a small surface element or area element, which is ds at point P, right? So this is our next step. So we have to choose a small area element, which is taken as always. We are taking it as ds, and hence here also we take it as ds at point P. So this is the small area element that I am choosing. Can you see this one? So this is the small area element ds that I am choosing at point P. And then next is what we are going to get. So we have to draw the directions of E and ds at point P. Is that clear? So this is our next point. So we have to draw the directions of E. What is the electric field intensity, and ds at point P. You know that at this point P, the direction of electric field intensity will be directed outwards. You already have seen in our last slide, right, how the electric lines of forces are going to be for this system of charged cylinder. Okay, so here at this point you know that electric field intensity will be directed outwards, and ds will be perpendicular to ds, right? So remember, ds is an area element. So you know that area is a vector quantity whose direction is perpendicular to the surface itself, right? So now from the figure, if I draw the directions of electric field intensity, this will be the direction of electric field intensity which is directed outwards, and even ds will be perpendicular to ds, right? So remember, this is a vector quantity. ds is an area element which is a vector quantity, and its direction will be perpendicular to the surface or normal to the surface. So that means at point P, E and ds both will be directed outwards, and hence the angle between these two will be 0 here. Okay, and let us go. So now we have to write the mathematical equation of the flux that is passing through ds, and once after writing that equation, if you integrate, you get the total electric flux passing through this Gaussian cylinder. Okay, so what is this flux? You already know, since it is that means it's a charged cylinder in which the positive charge is there. So the electric lines of forces will be coming out like this. Okay, like this. Even the electric lines of forces will be coming outside this cylinder also, outside this Gaussian cylinder also, but we need not consider these electric lines of forces, because to apply Gauss law we need to have a closed surface which is this Gaussian cylinder only. So that means we have to consider the flux that is passing through only this Gaussian cylinder, that's it. So that means we have to only consider the charge that is present within this cylinder, not the charge that is present outside the Gaussian cylinder. Okay, so that you try to get it. So that means you can forget about this upper part and this lower part, because they are not contributing any kind of electric flux to the Gaussian cylinder. So forget about the upper part and lower part of the charged cylinder. Okay, so now as you know, the electric flux will be directed outwards, okay, from the charged cylinder. Okay, so now, so this is the flux. What is flux? The total number of electric lines of forces that are coming out of this closed surface, that we call it as electric flux. Right now the flux that is passing through this ds is denoted by d phi. So you can see that equation here. So what is this d phi? The number of electric lines of forces that are passing through ds. So few electric lines of forces will be passing through this ds, and that electric flux is denoted by d phi, which is the dot product of electric field intensity at point P and the area vector at point P. So this mathematical equation gives the number of electric lines of forces that are passing through ds. You know this, right? And to find the total electric flux that is coming out of this Gaussian cylinder, what you do, you just integrate this equation. So first of all, understand the system, and mathematical derivation is going to be easier once you get it, right? So first try to understand the physics part, and the mathematics part is going to help you. Okay, so anyway, now I have written the flux, the mathematical equation of the flux that is passing through the area element that I have chosen, which is ds, which I can write it as the dot product of E and ds, and if I integrate this, I get the total electric flux. Once you know the total electric flux, you can apply the Gauss theorem, right? What is Gauss theorem? Total electric flux is 1 by epsilon 0 times q. Okay, so now let us assume that I am mentioning here itself, let us assume that the length of the cylinder, Gaussian cylinder that I am choosing, I can take it as L, and the charge that is present inside this Gaussian cylinder, I can take it as plus q. I am mentioning it here itself, right? So I am choosing the length of the Gaussian cylinder as small l, and I am choosing the total charge that is present inside this Gaussian cylinder. It can be anything. Okay, you don't know, even I don't know, but I can choose that, right? So I am choosing that amount of charge is as plus q. You can choose it as q dash, q0, q2, whatever you want you can choose, but I am choosing it by q. So since I am choosing the total amount of charge that is present inside this Gaussian cylinder by q, and the length of the cylinder by L, and now I can find the linear charge density. You know already the formulas, how to write the linear charge density, and I can even write the formula of volume charge density. Okay, I hope you got it, right? Why I have done those formulas in the beginning slide. Now you are getting it, I think. Okay, so now I have taken the charge inside this Gaussian cylinder by plus q, right? And this is the plus q, which is the total amount of charge that is present on this part of the charged cylinder. Okay, from here to here, the total amount of charge that is present inside the charged cylinder, I have taken it by Q here, and I have taken the length of the Gaussian cylinder by small l. So now you can apply the formulas of lambda and rho to find the relations between lambda, rho in terms of Q's, right? Anyway, so now just let us move on to our next one. So I have mentioned already. Anyway, so I have taken the length of the Gaussian cylinder by small l. Okay, and I have chosen the total amount of charge that is present inside this Gaussian cylinder by plus Q, and hence by formula I can write lambda as Q by L, which I can again write it as Q is equal to lambda times L, and similarly I can write rho as Q by pi r square L, where pi r square L is the volume of the cylinder, charged cylinder, not Gaussian cylinder, please remember it, because here I am applying the volume of a charged cylinder here, which is pi capital R square L, because the charge is present only in the cylinder whose radius is capital R. By mistake, if you write it by small r, everything is going to be wrong. So please check it out, because Q is present in which volume element? Pi capital R square L volume element has Q, not pi small r square L. Pi small r square L is going to be the volume of the Gaussian cylinder, which is even not there. We are just imagining it. Is that clear? So please check it. So anyway, you know these formulas. So now let us, now it's over. Maximum all the explanation part is over. Now we just do the mathematical part. So let us assume that the point P is present outside the cylinder. We are already doing that because this is the charged cylinder, right? This is our charged cylinder whose radius is capital R, and I have chosen a point P which is present outside the cylinder, which is present at a distance of small r. So that means when point P lies outside the cylinder, small r will be greater than capital R. You know that, and you already know that the flux that is passing through this ds, I can write it as d phi is equal to E dot ds. You know this equation, and to find the total electric flux, what you have to do, you have to just integrate this equation. So if I integrate this equation, integral d phi E becomes phi E, which is the total electric flux that is coming out of this cylinder. So now I can write phi E as integral d phi E, and from equation 1, integral d phi E is nothing but integral E dot ds. This also can be written as surface integral of E dot ds, and on expanding this E dot ds, you get integral E ds cos theta, where theta is the angle between E and ds. But you know that in this case theta is going to be 0. We already have done it, right? Because E and ds are along the same direction at point P, which is directed outwards. So since theta is 0, so substitute that. If I substitute, I get integral E ds cos 0. But you know that cos 0 is 1, and hence cos 0 is 1. Just substitute that in that equation. If I do that, I get integral E ds. So now E is constant. Why it is constant, I already mentioned many times. So now you can take it out. If you take it out, you get E is equal to E times integral ds. What is this ds here? So please remember, this ds is the area element that I have chosen on Gaussian cylinder, not on real cylinder. So please try to understand this, guys. This ds is the area element that I have chosen on the Gaussian cylinder, and hence the Gaussian cylinder has the radius of small r now. So now integral ds becomes the total surface area of the Gaussian cylinder whose radius is smaller, and actually the total surface area is the area of this curved surface. This is curved surface. Total surface area is nothing but the area of this curved surface, and this area of upper circle, upper face, and the area of lower face. But no charge is coming out of this cylinder from, sorry, not no charge, no electric line of force is coming out of this cylinder from upper face, upper part of the Gaussian cylinder, and lower part of the Gaussian cylinder. So no line is coming from that Gaussian cylinder from upper face and lower face, and hence I am just cancelling. I am not considering these two phases. Okay, it's that means I am explaining it from diagram itself. Even mathematically I can do, because at this point the angle between E and ds will be 90 degrees, but I don't want you to confuse that. So you just remember that whatever the flux that is coming out of this Gaussian cylinder is from curved surface only. Whatever the flux that is coming out of this Gaussian cylinder is from curved surface only, not from upper surface and lower surface, and hence I am not considering the upper surface and lower surface. So that means here integral ds is actually the total surface area that you have to write here. But since no flux is contributed from the upper face or upper surface and lower surface, in place of integral ds I am only writing the curved surface area of the Gaussian cylinder. Okay, so that I hope you got it right. I am not considering the upper phase and lower phase here in case of the total surface area. Actually the formula of total surface area for this Gaussian cylinder is 2 pi, I am just writing it here, 2 pi RL plus one is upper surface area and lower surface area, both are circles, right? So and hence you get 2 pi and its radius is r square. So this is the total surface area, so that you try to get it. This is the total surface area of the Gaussian cylinder. But since no flux is coming out of upper surface and lower surface, there is no contribution of flux to this Gaussian cylinder, this Gaussian cylinder from upper surface and lower surface, and hence I am not considering this area. So that is what I am explaining here. So that means integral ds is coming out to be 2 pi r L only, not this 2 pi r square. Additional term will not be there here. Okay, so that's it. So now the total electric flux that is coming out of this cylinder is coming out to be E times 2 pi r L, which is taken as equation 2. Now by using, you know that from Gauss law, the total electric flux is nothing but integral E dot ds, which is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 times the charge enclosed by it. I already mentioned that inside this Gaussian cylinder I have taken that the charge that is present inside it by plus q, and hence by Gauss law I can write the total electric flux as 1 by epsilon 0 times q. If I take this as q dash, it becomes q dash. If I take this as q double dash, it becomes q double dash. That you try to understand. Okay, now from equation number 2 and 3, this is equation number 2, which gives the total electric flux, and this is equation number 3, which is Gauss law. So now if I compare 2 and 3, or if you substitute 2 in 3, I get E times 2 pi RL is equal to q by epsilon 0, right? And I can write this equation as, so now if you send 2 pi RL to right hand side, you get E is equal to q by 2 pi epsilon 0 r times L. So which I can write, so this is, you can stop here itself if you want. Okay, if you want, you can stop here itself for board examination. There is nothing wrong, you will get full marks. But as I already mentioned, since the charged cylinder is an example of linear charge distribution and volume charge distribution, you can write this electric field intensity in terms of lambda and in terms of rho. So we just convert this equation in terms of lambda and rho. So this formula is known to you, right? Lambda is equal to q by L. So there is q in numerator and L in denominator. So q by L can be replaced with lambda. If I do so, I get the electric field intensity as lambda by 2 pi epsilon 0 r. So this is electric field intensity in terms of lambda. Similarly, I can derive the electric field intensity in terms of rho also. Anyway, from this equation I am just writing it as it is. E is equal to q by 2 pi epsilon 0 RL. But you know that here, this is the equation, our formula, which gives a relation between q and rho. So in place of q, I can substitute rho pi capital R square L. If I do so, so what I get? I can write q as rho times pi capital R square L by 2 pi epsilon 0 R L. Now L is getting cancelled, and what else? Pi is getting cancelled. So the remaining terms will be rho by 2 epsilon 0 capital R square in bracket 1 by R. So this is the electric field intensity in terms of rho. So you can stop here itself if you want in board examination, and if you want to write it in terms of lambda and rho, you can extend 2 more steps here. Okay, so let us move on to our next slide now. So now to find the electric field intensity at a point outside the cylinder, that is completed. Now let us move on to our next case, which is we try to determine the electric field intensity when point P lies on the surface of the charged cylinder. So when point P lies on the surface of the charged cylinder, you know that small r is going to be capital R. So whatever the equations that I already got when point P lies outside it, those were E is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon 0. Actually there was small r here, there was small r, so please you can see, yeah, what do we have lambda by 2 pi epsilon 0 small r. Okay, when point P lies on the surface, what you do, you just substitute capital R in place of small r, because when point P lies on the surface, small r is going to be equal to capital R. So that is what we are doing here. Just so that means when point P lies on the surface, small r is going to be capital R, and hence E is becoming lambda by 2 pi epsilon 0 capital R. And similarly, if I want to write that electric field intensity in terms of rho, so this is the equation that I got for the electric field intensity when point P lies outside it. But you know that when point P lies on the surface, small r is becoming capital R, and hence in place of small r, if I substitute capital R, we are getting rho capital R square by 2 epsilon 0 1 by r. 1 r gets cancelled, right, and hence it becomes rho capital R by 2 epsilon 0. So this is electric field intensity when point P lies on the surface of the cylinder. You can stop here, or if you want you can write this also, choice is yours. Now let us move on to the last part of this topic, which is we try to determine the electric field intensity when point P lies inside the cylinder. So now let us assume that this is our charged cylinder. Okay, so this is our charged cylinder whose linear charge density is lambda and whose volume charge density is rho. So if point P lies inside it, for example, if I want to find electric field intensity at this point P, what you have to do, whatever the steps that we already have taken, we have to follow the same steps. We have to choose the point P and let this point P is at a distance of smaller, and then next construct a Gaussian surface here. What is the Gaussian surface that is going to be here again? So it is going to be again a cylinder of radius small r, and then next we have to choose small area element ds, or whatever the steps that we have done for the point P when it lies outside, the same steps we have to do here also. That means the total electric flux, whatever the formula that we got there, the same formula we are also going to get here, but the only difference is that the charge enclosed by this Gaussian cylinder will not be Q, rather it will be something else. Is that clear? Because remember, the total charge that is present in this cylinder, in this Gaussian cylinder, total charge, here also charge is there, is taken by Q, right? But while applying Gauss theorem, we have to only consider the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. Okay, so that means the total charge that is present in this Gaussian cylinder becomes Q, that means something else other than Q, something else, and I have taken that charge by Q dash. Anyway, we just that means this is the explanation part. You try to understand it neatly. So now let us assume that the point P is present inside the cylinder. Okay, so the Gaussian cylinder is going to be present inside the real cylinder, which is the charged cylinder. Okay, so now try to understand it. So now you know that what is Gauss theorem, the total electric flux that is coming out of this Gaussian cylinder is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 times the charge enclosed by it. Okay, so now the electric lines of forces will be coming out like this, but whatever the electric lines of forces that is coming out of this charged cylinder is due to the charge that is present inside it only. Okay, so initially when the cylinder was outside, the total charge that was present on the charged cylinder was taken by Q, which was present throughout this region, right? So this was the cylinder initially. Okay, okay, so whatever the charge that is present here, here and everywhere, so from this element to this element, the total charge that was present on the original charged cylinder was taken by plus Q. But while using Gauss theorem, you know that from Gauss theorem the total electric flux is 1 by epsilon 0 times the charge enclosed by it. Okay, so now the charge that is present inside this Gaussian cylinder is not plus q, rather it is something else which is less than plus q. I hope you got it right, because remember the Gaussian cylinder is inside the charged cylinder. Inside it means it consists less amount of charge. It consists less amount of charge. When it was outside, it was consisting this entire charge inside it. This entire charge was present inside the Gaussian cylinder when the Gaussian cylinder was outside it. But now since it is inside it, it will be filled by a charge which is less than q only, and I have taken that charge as q dash. So now let us assume that the total charge that is present inside this Gaussian cylinder is q dash, and by concept or by definition of Gauss theorem, it becomes total electric flux as 1 by epsilon 0 times charge enclosed by it, which is q dash. So you know that integral E dot ds becomes E times 2 pi RL. We already have done it. Substitute that and send this 2 pi RL to right hand side. If you do so, you get E is equal to q dash by 2 pi epsilon 0 RL. So now this is electric field intensity in terms of q dash. Now you have to convert this electric field intensity in terms of lambda and rho. Okay, so if you do so, this is E, which is q dash by 2 pi epsilon 0 RL that you got. But to write this E in terms of rho and lambda, how we can do it? So you already know these formulas, right? So rho is q by pi capital R square L, and you also know that lambda is q by L, right? So in place of q by L, if I substitute lambda, I get rho as lambda by pi R square, but this is not needed now. So first of all, you have to understand these 2 points. So rho is already known to you, which is q by pi R square L, and this rho also can be written as q dash by pi small r square L. Why? Because this Gaussian cylinder is part of the bigger cylinder, and hence the density of the bigger cylinder and smaller cylinder will be same. Remember, both are, that means the Gaussian cylinder, when it is present inside the charged cylinder, it is going to be the part of the bigger cylinder, right? So whatever the volume charge density this charged cylinder has, the same volume charge density even this Gaussian cylinder also will have, and hence the volume charge density of this cylinder is going to be the charge that is present inside it, which is q dash, and its volume, and hence I can write it as pi r square L, which is the volume of this Gaussian cylinder. So that means the rho for charged cylinder and rho for Gaussian cylinder will be same, because the Gaussian cylinder is part of the charged cylinder. They will have same densities, right? And hence I can write rho as q by pi capital R square L, and I also can write rho as q dash by pi R square L. So now from these two equations, I can write q as rho into this one. From these two, I can write q as rho times pi capital R square L, and from this rho and the last one q dash pi R square L, I can write q dash as rho into pi small r square L. Now substitute this equation here. In place of q dash, substitute rho times pi small r square L. If I do so, what I get? So in numerator you have rho pi r square L by 2 pi epsilon 0 RL. So now L gets cancelled and pi gets cancelled. What else we have? One small r gets cancelled, and hence you get rho by 2 epsilon 0 R here. So this is electric field intensity at a point P when it lies inside the charged cylinder in terms of rho. And if you want to write this electric field intensity in terms of lambda, what you do? You can substitute this equation now. So this is the formula. I just erase it. So this one, rho is equal to, I can write in terms of lambda also, which is lambda by pi r square. How I have written it? I hope you got it, because q by L is nothing but lambda, right? So this is the relation between rho and lambda, and hence we got rho by 2 epsilon 0 small r, right, which is electric field intensity at a point inside the charged cylinder. So in place of rho, if I substitute lambda by pi r square, I get the electric field intensity at a point P inside the charged cylinder in terms of lambda. So substitute rho by lambda by pi r square here from formula. If I do so, I can write this equation as lambda by pi r square comes to denominator. It becomes lambda by 2 pi epsilon 0 capital R square, and R remains as it is. So this is electric field intensity at a point P inside the charged cylinder in terms of lambda. So remember, in board examination you can follow any one. So that means either you can write the electric field intensity in either in terms of lambda or either in terms of rho. You just follow one thing. So choice is yours. Okay. So if you want to stop here itself, you can stop here itself. Okay. Otherwise, if you want to write in terms of lambda, you just write additional step. That's it. There is nothing wrong in that. Anyway, so this is electric field intensity due to a charged cylinder that we have discussed, and I hope it is clear. And remember, whatever the topics that we discussed till now, which is E due to point charge, E due to spherical charged conductor, and E due to charged sphere, and the next E due to line charge, E due to cylindrical charged conductor, and the next E due to charged cylinder. These 6 topics are very important, and mostly in your board examination, any one of these topics they are going to ask. Okay, for your that means as an essay question, they are going to ask, mostly they will ask any one question among these 6 one. Okay, anyway, that's it. We will stop now. We will continue the remaining topics in our next video lessons. Thank you all once again.